Welcome back to the series, Most Explanations of Practice Exam Walkthrough. 15 scenario questions start in the wrong place. We're starting from the problem it solves. By the end of this video, you'll have run a full simulation of the Amazon Web Services Certified Cloud Practitioner exam. 15 scenario questions across all 4 domains, work the way you'll need to work them on exam day. This is the dress rehearsal. We're not learning new lines now. We're running the show under stage conditions so that nothing surprises you when the curtain goes up. Across this course, 3 checkpoint episodes drilled the cloud concepts, security, and technology scenarios one domain at a time. This episode pulls all of it together into a single simulation, covering every domain in roughly its real exam weight. The skill we're sharpening here isn't memorizing new facts, it's pattern recognition, reading a scenario quickly and landing on the right service. Think of this like the dress rehearsal the night before a play. You already know your lines, the frameworks, the service boundaries, the qualifier rules. What you're practicing now is performing them under pressure, on a clock, without the script in front of you. For every question, I'll show you the scenario, walk through eliminating the wrong answers out loud, and land on the survivor with a one-line reason. Here's the method we'll repeat 15 times. First, read the scenario and find the qualifier word, the most cost-effective, the least overhead, the most secure. That word often decides everything. Second, eliminate the answers that are clearly wrong, rather than hunting straight for the perfect one. Third, land on whatever survives and say why in a single sentence. And keep your pace honest, because the clock is always running. These 15 scenarios are spread to match the real blueprint. 4 scenarios on cloud concepts, around 24% of the exam. 4 on security and compliance, the second largest domain at roughly 30%. 5 on cloud technology and services, the largest domain at about 34%. And 2 on billing, pricing, and support, the smallest slice at 12%. Remember, the exam uses compensatory scoring, so a strong domain can offset a weaker one. You only need 700 overall. Let's start with Domain 1, Cloud Concepts. These 4 scenarios test the frameworks and the economics, the 6 advantages, region selection, the well-architected pillars, and the cloud adoption framework. They reward you for matching a business outcome to the right named concept. Question 1. A startup wants to launch a web app without buying any servers upfront, and they want to pay only for the compute they actually consume. Which of the 6 advantages of cloud computing does this describe? The options are economies of scale, trade capital expense for variable expense, go global in minutes, or stop guessing capacity. Notice the 2 signals in the stem, no upfront servers, and pay only for what you use. Let's eliminate. Go global in minutes is about geographic reach, not how you pay, so that's out. Stop guessing capacity is about matching demand without over or under provisioning, also not about upfront cost, out. Economies of scale is tempting because it's a cost benefit, but it describes Amazon Web Services aggregated buying power lowering prices, not the idea of paying per consumption. That leaves one answer that directly matches no upfront spend plus pay as you go. The answer is trade capital expense for variable expense. Instead of a big upfront investment in hardware, you pay only when you consume resources, and only for how much you consume. Whenever a stem says no servers upfront and pay for what you use, that's this advantage. And here's Amazon Web Services' own wording on it, straight from the overview white paper. Instead of investing heavily in data centers and servers before you know how you'll use them, you pay only when you consume computing resources, and only for how much you consume. That phrasing, pay only when you consume, is the exact fingerprint of this advantage on the exam. Question 2. A company in the European Union is bound by GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, and customer data must legally remain inside the EU. The engineers point out that the Northern Virginia region is cheaper and lower latency for some users. So which factor should drive the region choice? Lowest price, lowest latency, regulatory compliance, or newest features? Notice that price, latency, and features are all genuinely real factors, which is what makes this one worth slowing down on. Now eliminate. Lowest price and lowest latency are both real region criteria, and on another question either could win, but neither one overrides a legal requirement, so both are out here. Newest features is never the primary driver in a compliance scenario, so that goes too. When the law dictates where data physically lives, every other factor falls away. Think of it like a passport requirement for travel. It doesn't matter how cheap or convenient the route is if the law says the data has to stay in country. The answer is regulatory compliance. Data residency is a hard override. When a regulation requires a specific region, cost and latency simply don't get a vote. Spot a compliance or data sovereignty requirement in the stem, and you can stop reading the cost arguments. Amazon Web Services puts this plainly. If your workload contains data bound by local regulations, then selecting the region that complies with the regulation overrides other evaluation factors. That word overrides is doing all the work. Compliance isn't just one factor among equals, it's the one that wins. Question 3. A team wants their architecture to recover automatically and quickly when a component fails. They're scaling horizontally and regularly testing their recovery procedures. Which well-architected pillar does this map to? Performance efficiency, reliability, cost optimization, or operational excellence? Watch the verbs in the stem: recover, scale horizontally, test recovery. Eliminate. Cost optimization is about value per dollar, nothing to do with failure recovery, so that's out. Performance efficiency is about choosing the right resource as technology evolves, also out. Operational excellence is the closest distractor. It covers running and monitoring with small reversible changes, but the stem's keyword is recover from failure, not deploy and monitor. Recovering from failure and scaling horizontally are the signature phrases of one pillar. The answer is the reliability pillar. Recover quickly from failure, scale horizontally for availability, and test your recovery procedures. Those three design principles belong to reliability. When a question is about surviving and bouncing back from failure, that's your pillar. Question 4. A cloud migration is stalling because the staff lack cloud skills and the organization's culture is resisting the change. Leadership now needs to plan upskilling and organizational readiness. Which cloud adoption framework perspective owns this work? Business, people, governance, or platform? The signals here are skills, culture, and workforce readiness. Eliminate. The business perspective is about financial outcomes and value, not the workforce itself, so that's out. Governance is about risk and control, not culture, out. Platform is about building and migrating the actual workloads, technical, not human, out. That leaves the one perspective that owns culture, training, leadership, and workforce readiness. The answer is the people perspective. It's the bridge between technology and business, covering culture, organizational structure, leadership, and the workforce, and that includes training and skills. Anytime a STEM is about upskilling staff or driving culture change, it's people. Quick recap on cloud concepts before we move on. Pay per consumption with no upfront servers points to trade capital expense for variable expense. When a law dictates location, compliance overrides everything else. Recovering from failure and scaling horizontally is the reliability pillar, and workforce, skills, and culture is the people perspective. 4 scenarios, 4 clean keyword matches. Now domain 2, security and compliance, the second largest domain on the exam at roughly 30%. These 4 scenarios test where the responsibility line falls and which security service does which job. Get the service boundaries clean and this domain becomes the most predictable of the 4. Question 5. A team runs a production database on Amazon RDS, the managed relational database service. An auditor asks who's responsible for patching the database engine. Which split is correct? The customer patches everything. Amazon Web Services patches the engine while the customer picks the window. Amazon Web Services patches absolutely everything, or the customer patches the operating system. This is a shared responsibility question, so think carefully about where the line sits for a managed service. Eliminate. The customer patches the operating system is wrong, because RDS abstracts the OS away entirely, you never touch it. The customer patches everything describes the EC2 model, not a managed service, so that's out. Now, Amazon Web Services patches everything feels right, but patching on RDS is actually shared. Amazon Web Services develops and releases the engine patch, while the customer still chooses the maintenance window in which it gets applied. That shared boundary is the detail people most often miss here. The answer is Amazon Web Services patches the engine, and the customer picks the window. Amazon Web Services produces the patch for the managed platform, but applying it is a shared act. You decide when it lands by selecting the maintenance window. That's the precise responsibility line for RDS. This one trips people up constantly, so let's nail it down. The widely repeated mistake is assuming Amazon Web Services does 100% of RDS patching. Amazon Web Services does produce the patch, but applying it is shared. And beyond patching, the customer still owns the data, the IAM access controls, the encryption settings, and the choice of patch window. Remember the principle: moving to a managed service shifts work up the stack, but it never erases the customer's side of the line. Question 6. An application running on an EC2 instance needs to read objects from an S3 bucket securely. What's the most secure way to grant that access? Store an IAM uses access keys in the app config, hardcode the keys in the application code, attach an IAM role to the instance, or embed root credentials. The qualifier is most secure, and 3 of these options involve storing a long-term secret. Eliminate. Any answer that stores long-term access keys on the instance is a credential leak risk waiting to happen, so storing keys in the app config is out. Hard-coding keys directly in the application code is the worst possible option, out. Embedding root credentials anywhere is never the right answer on any exam question, out. Every option that stores a key falls away. Only one option avoids long-term secrets entirely. The answer is attach an IAM role to the instance through an instance profile. The role supplies temporary, automatically rotated credentials that the SDK pulls from instance metadata. The app never sees or stores a long-term key. It's like giving the instance a visitor badge the front desk reissues automatically, instead of taping a master key under the keyboard. For the most secure way for EC2 to reach another Amazon Web Services service, the answer is always an IAM role. Amazon Web Services spells out exactly why the role wins. Because role credentials are temporary and updated automatically, you don't have to manage credentials, and you don't have to worry about long-term security risks. Temporary and auto-rotated. That's the whole reason a role beats a stored access key. Question 7. A security team needs to detect compromised credentials and anomalous API activity by analyzing logs. Which service fits? Guard Duty, Inspector, Macie, or Security Hub? These 4 sound similar, but each one has a single, distinct job, and the keyword in the stem tells you which. Picture these 3 as a building security team. Guard Duty is the guard watching the CCTV feeds, looking for intruders, that's threat detection from logs. Inspector is the inspector who checks that the windows and locks aren't broken, that's vulnerability scanning across EC2, container images, and Lambda. And Macie is the clerk who knows exactly which filing cabinets hold the confidential records, that's sensitive data discovery in S3. So the keyword map is simple. Malicious activity means Guard Duty, software vulnerabilities means Inspector, and sensitive data in S3 means Macie. Eliminate. Inspector scans for software vulnerabilities, not behavior in logs, so it's out. Macy classifies sensitive data sitting in S3, which has nothing to do with credential abuse, out. Security Hub aggregates and correlates findings from other services. It's not the primary sensor doing the detecting, out. Compromised credentials and anomalous activity drawn from logs is exactly one service's lane. The answer is Amazon Guard Duty. It continuously analyzes Cloud Trail management events, virtual private Cloudflow logs, and DNS query logs to surface threats like compromised credentials and malicious traffic. When the stem says malicious or anomalous activity detected from logs, that's Guard Duty every time. Question 8. An external auditor wants proof that the Amazon Web Services infrastructure itself is PCI DSS, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, and SOC 2, System and Organization Controls 2, compliant. Which service provides that evidence? Amazon Web Services Artifact, Amazon Web Services Audit Manager, Amazon Web Services Config, or Amazon Web Services Trusted Advisor. The key phrase is proof that Amazon Web Services infrastructure is compliant. That's about the security of the cloud, not your own configuration. Eliminate. Config records your resource state and configuration drift. That's your stuff, not Amazon Web Services attestations, so it's out. Trusted Advisor gives best practice checks, not formal compliance reports, out. Audit Manager is the closest contender, but it collects evidence about your usage of Amazon Web Services, that's security in the cloud, your side of the line. The auditor here wants Amazon Web Services' own report, which is security of the cloud. That's the distinction that separates the right answer from Audit Manager. The answer is Amazon Web Services Artifact. The SOC and PCI DSS reports already exist. Amazon Web Services has them produced by independent auditors, and you simply log in and download them, free. You don't build these yourself. That's precisely what Artifact exists for. Let's lock in the distinction these two services trade on. Artifact is security of the cloud. You download Amazon Web Services' own attestations like SOC, PCI DSS, ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, and FedRAMP, the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program, free and self-service. Its job is proving Amazon Web Services is certified. Audit Manager is the mirror image, security in the cloud. It continuously collects evidence about your own usage, maps it to compliance frameworks, and produces assessment reports. Its job is proving your configuration is compliant. Auditor wants Amazon Web Services report, think Artifact. You need evidence about your own setup, think Audit Manager. On to Domain 3, Cloud Technology and Services, the largest domain on the exam. These 5 scenarios are all service boundary decisions: which compute, which storage class, which database, which networking service, which observability tool. The qualifier word and the keyword together pick your answer. Question 9. A workload runs short pieces of code in response to S3 upload events. The team wants the least operational overhead and wants to pay only when the code actually runs. Which compute service? EC2, Fargate, Lambda, or Elastic Beanstalk? Notice the qualifier, least operational overhead, paired with short, event-driven, and pay only when it runs. Eliminate. EC2 means managing the operating system yourself. That's the most overhead, the exact opposite of the qualifier, so it's out. Elastic Beanstalk still provisions and exposes EC2 instances underneath, so it's not the least overhead either, out. Fargate runs containers without managing servers, which is genuinely low overhead, but the work here is short and event-driven, not a long-running container. The qualifier least overhead, combined with event-driven and pay per run, point straight to functions. The answer is Amazon Web Services Lambda. Short, event-driven code with no servers to manage and billing only per invocation, That's the textbook Lambda pattern, triggered right off an S3 event. For least operational overhead on event-driven work, Lambda is the lean toward. One caveat that flips this answer, so keep it sharp. Lambda has hard ceilings, 15 minutes of execution and 10 gigabytes of memory per invocation. If a scenario describes a job that runs longer than 15 minutes or needs more memory than that, the answer is no longer Lambda, it's Fargate or EC2. Watch for stems that quietly exceed these limits, because that limit is often what moves the right answer away from Lambda. Question 10. A bank must retain transaction records for 7 years to meet compliance. The data is almost never accessed, and retrieval taking several hours is perfectly acceptable. Which S3 storage class is most cost-effective? S3 Standard, Standard Infrequent Access, Glacier Flexible Retrieval, or Glacier Deep Archive. The qualifier is most cost-effective, and the stem hands you 2 gifts, rarely accessed, and hours-long retrieval is fine. Eliminate. S3 Standard is built for frequent access, far too expensive for a cold 7-year archive. Out. Standard Infrequent Access is cheaper, but it's for data you still occasionally pull back, not deep archive cheap. Out. Glacier Flexible Retrieval suits archives accessed maybe a few times a year, and it costs more than the absolute floor. Lowest cost, plus the fact that hours of retrieval is acceptable for 7 years, points to the cheapest tier of all. The answer is S3 Glacier Deep Archive, the lowest cost storage class, roughly $1 per terabyte per month. Picture offsite cold storage in a salt mine. Dirt cheap to keep boxes there for a decade, but it takes hours to drive out and retrieve one. That's exactly right for records you must keep but almost never open. Amazon Web Services designed this class for precisely this scenario. Glacier Deep Archive is built for customers, particularly those in highly regulated industries like financial services, healthcare, and the public sector that retain data for 7 to 10 years or longer to meet regulatory requirements. When you see a multi-year compliance archive at lowest cost, this is the match. Question 11. A workload needs single-digit millisecond latency at massive scale, with a flexible schema. The traffic is unpredictable and spiky, and the team wants a fully managed, serverless data store. Which database? RDS, Aurora, DynamoDB, or Redshift? The keywords stacking up here are millisecond latency at any scale, flexible schema, and fully managed serverless. Eliminate. Redshift is an analytics data warehouse. It's for complex queries over huge datasets, not low latency serving of individual records, so it's out. RDS and Aurora are both relational engines with a fixed schema. They don't match flexible schema at any scale, so they fall away too. Fully managed NoSQL with millisecond latency at any scale is practically a synonym for one specific service. Only one of these is a serverless key value store. The answer is Amazon DynamoDB. Serverless NoSQL, flexible schema, single-digit millisecond latency at any scale, and it absorbs unpredictable spiky traffic with on-demand capacity. Whenever you read fully managed NoSQL at massive scale, your reflex should be DynamoDB. Question 12. A real-time multiplayer game runs over UDP, the User Datagram Protocol, and needs static IP addresses plus fast regional failover. There's no content caching involved at all. Which service? CloudFront, Global Accelerator, Route 53, or Direct Connect? 3 signals jump out: non-HTTP UDP traffic, static IPs, and fast failover, with no caching anywhere. Eliminate. CloudFront is a content delivery network for caching HTTP and HTTPS content, but this is UDP gaming with no caching, so it's out. Route 53 is DNS routing. It resolves names but doesn't hand you static anycast IPs over the Amazon Web Services backbone. Out. Direct Connect is a private link from an on-premises data center, which has nothing to do with global user access, out. Non-HTTP traffic, static IPs, and fast regional failover is one service's signature. The answer is Amazon Web Services Global Accelerator. It gives you two static Anycast IP addresses, routes TCP and UDP traffic over the Amazon Web Services backbone to the nearest healthy endpoint, and provides fast deterministic failover with no caching. The cleanest discriminator from CloudFront is static IPs needed, or non-HTTP traffic, not simply static versus dynamic content. Question 13. A production EC2 instance was terminated, and the team needs to know which user did it. Which service answers that question? CloudWatch, CloudTrail, Amazon Web Services Config, or Trusted Advisor? The whole question hinges on one word: which user? That's a who did what question. Picture these three as instruments in one car. CloudWatch is the dashboard, speed, temperature, what's happening right now, the metrics and alarms. CloudTrail is the dashcam. It records who drove and what they did, the full API call history. And Config is the service logbook, what was changed, and whether it still meets spec. So when a question asks who made the API call, that's the dashcam, every time. Eliminate. CloudWatch tracks metrics and raises alarms. It tells you what is happening, like high CPU, but never who did it, so it's out. Config records configuration state and drift, but it doesn't capture the identity behind an action, out. Trusted Advisor gives best practice recommendations, not an audit log, out. Which user did it is a who did what question, and only one service is the audit trail. The answer is Amazon Web Services CloudTrail. It records every API call in the account, who took the action, what they did, when, and from what source IP. Whenever the question is who made this API call, it's CloudTrail, full stop. Finally, Domain 4, billing, pricing and support, the smallest domain, just two scenarios. These test the cost tools and the support tiers. Both come down to a clean keyword trigger, so let's close them out fast. Question 14. A team wants to model the cost of a new workload before they deploy anything at all. Which tool produces that estimate? The pricing calculator, Cost Explorer, Amazon Web Services budgets, or the cost and usage report? The single most important word in the STEM is before. Nothing has been deployed yet. Eliminate. Cost Explorer analyzes spend after it happens. It reads the receipt, so it's out. Budgets alerts you when actual or forecasted spend crosses a threshold, which also requires existing usage, out. The cost and usage report is a granular export of past usage data, out. Only one tool can price a workload that doesn't even exist yet. The answer is the Amazon Web Services Pricing Calculator. It models the cost of a planned workload and produces a shareable estimate, all before you launch a single resource. Estimate before deploy means pricing calculator. Here's the timeline that settles all three of these. The pricing calculator is before you deploy. It models a planned workload into a shareable estimate. Then on the other side, Cost Explorer is after. It analyzes what your actual spend turned out to be and why. And budgets is the guardrail that alerts you when you cross a limit. Think of grocery shopping. The calculator prices your list before you leave home. Cost Explorer reads the receipt, and budgets buzzes your phone when the cart gets too full. Question 15. Our last one. A company runs a mission-critical production workload and requires a designated technical account manager who knows their architecture personally. Which support plan? Basic, developer, business, or enterprise? The phrase to anchor on is designated technical account manager. Eliminate. Basic is free with no technical case support at all, so it's out. Developer is business hours email only and not meant for production, out. Business is the closest contender. It adds 24/7 phone and chat support plus the full Trusted Advisor check set, which sounds production-ready, but it does not include a designated technical account manager. Among the classic 4 tiers, only one includes a designated TAM, and that's the discriminator on this question. The answer is enterprise support. A designated technical account manager is the unambiguous trigger word among the classic 4 tiers that named technical contact only comes with enterprise. See designated TAM, pick enterprise. That's all 15. The frameworks are learned, the service boundaries are in your head. So for the last minute, let's talk about the habits that protect your score when you're actually sitting in the exam tomorrow morning. There are 4 of them. Tactic 1. Read the qualifier word first. Before you even look at the options, hunt for words like most cost-effective, least operational overhead, most secure, or best practice. Very often 2 answers technically work, and the qualifier is the only thing that picks the winner. Remember the patterns we saw? Least overhead favors managed and serverless services over self-managed EC2, and most secure EC2 access favors an IAM role over stored keys. Tactic 2. Eliminate the impossible first. Work like a detective ruling out suspects with airtight alibis. You rarely need to prove the right answer outright. You just need to disqualify the ones that can't be it. Narrowing 4 options down to 2 instantly doubles your odds. Then choose among the survivors using the qualifier word from Tactic 1. Tactic 3. Flag and return. You have roughly 80 to 90 seconds per question, so don't burn 5 minutes wrestling one stubborn item. Make a provisional pick, flag the question, and move on. Come back to it later with fresh eyes. Once you've banked all the easy points, time management is a skill the exam quietly rewards. Tactic 4. Never leave a blank. The exam has no penalty for a wrong answer, so an educated guess always beats an empty box. Even your flagged questions get a provisional answer before you submit. And one more thing. Trust your first read on service boundary questions. Second guessing tends to convert right answers into wrong ones. So unless you spot a concrete reason to change, leave your first instinct alone. And that's the full rehearsal. Map by keyword, because clean service boundaries decide most of these questions. Let the qualifier word break the ties between 2 valid-looking answers. Eliminate first, then choose, flag the hard ones, return to them, and never leave a blank. You've put in the work, go get it. That's practice exam walkthrough. 15 scenario questions, demystified. If you got value, the subscribe button is the best thank you there is. Next lesson is already